This video focuses on the value of borrowing rather than copying photographic insights and techniques from others. It's probably impossible now to create a photograph that isn't somehow a derivative in some part of an existing picture or photographic movement. As photographers, we have an enormous bank of available images to draw on. Photographs have been made for the past 200 years, and it's incredible actually that there's still ongoing innovation within the medium. I think that photography has evolved to a place in which we can dip into the creations of the past and cherry pick ideas and mold these into our own particular visual language. Every now and again, a photographer has emerged who's broken the mold in a very significant manner. Someone like William Eggleston, for instance, who spent endless time in his friend's snapshot photo lab. It was these uncomposed and unformulated images that inspired Eggleston to forego the rules of visual literacy and to delve into what he eventually termed the democratic forest of subject matter. He was operating far outside what was acceptable as the bounds of the photographic art world. The initial reaction from his critics was rejection. The reaction to the work of Stephen Shaw and Robert Frank was the same. In this video, I extract the significant talking points that emerged from an interview with visual art scholar Carl Schonland. We explored the process of borrowing fundamental elements from the new topographic movement to create an essay, Objects of Reminiscence, that on the surface has very few similarities with the movement. The photographs were made over a number of years in 16 African countries. In the past, I traveled widely in Africa on journalistic, corporate, and NGO assignments. And I became aware that in the name of progress, or possibly because of neglect, much of Africa's natural beauty was being eliminated. Plastic kitsch and poor representations of animals and plants had replaced the previous splendor and color of Africa. The continent's nature had been replaced by unnaturally bright artificial artifacts, often manufactured in China. I started photographing the symbols of the past within the hotels, restaurants, and public spaces that I visited. Over time, I started to develop a style or visual approach to the photographs that I felt best reflected how I was feeling about this disturbing development. I needed to tackle the question of what exactly I wanted to communicate and how throughout the essay the photographs could have a consistent look and feel. I'll break down the characteristics that I borrowed from the new topographics. Creating a theme and the manner in which one approaches a subject takes time to evolve. It happens incrementally, and you pick up hints along the way when something resonates with how you feel about the subject. I heard the song Where Have All the Flowers Gone by Pete Seeger, and the first verse resonated a lot with my thoughts at the time. It's easy to become overly self-righteous about subjects like humanity defiling nature, but as someone who had just caught a plane to travel to a country and then driven around in a gas-guzzling four-wheel drive, it felt a little disingenuous of me to preach about a small-town restaurant owner's lack of environmental concern or aesthetic appreciation. I guess this essay is a form of protest, but I wanted the photographs to emerge from a neutral standpoint, more like a quiet scream. When you look at much of Robert Adams' work, he was one of the new topographic photographers. You become aware of his feelings of horror at the unregulated urban sprawl that he witnessed. I think the new topographic photographs work best when they're a reflection of the photographer's own feelings towards a harmed landscape. But at worst, they can become hollow statements about lack of taste or the uncaring nature of others. In comparison with my images, I think the new topographic photographs tend to be more intellectual in their attempt to address environmental concerns. The commentary is wider and more of a societal problem. When I look at these photographs, I'm obviously repulsed by what's going on, but the experience is happening elsewhere. provoking probably a similar reaction to, say, watching a documentary on the destruction of our oceans. The intention was to invite viewers into the spaces that I photographed in order to provoke a personal reaction. For this reason, I adopted the deadpan look of new topographic photographs. The camera position is important in this because if it's eye level, it excludes any seductive photographic effects like perspective or limited depth of field. The result of this is that the viewer is allowed to feel what it's like to be in these ordinary spaces. The scenes become very familiar and the composition straightforward, so the photographs then become an extension of normal seeing. Another parallel is that the photographs lack an obvious central subject. Instead, the space actually becomes a subject and the viewer is invited to enter the space, look around, and to eventually feel the feelings that might or might not be similar to mine. In my case, I generally felt emptiness, sadness, and loss. There would possibly be a flicker of recognition when the viewer sees these replicas of nature, but eventually they would be left feeling uncomfortable at the lack of any genuine signs of life. In other respects, this essay diverges from their new topographics. The obvious differences are the subject matter, which is predominantly interiors, and also have allowed for strong color. This addition of color adds a superficial element of seduction. Viewers can walk away from the scenes with some conscious colorful trinket, but their subconscious will somehow be left feeling a little shortchanged. I find that my reaction to kitsch of any kind is that I'm initially hit by a very brief surge of interest, but then I quickly feel let down or disturbed. I'll end this video here with an interesting response taken from my discussion with Carl Schonland. He was looking at an image showing a stuffed lion enclosed in a glass container. I took this photograph at the Parliament buildings in Swaziland's capital, Lubamba. I hope you enjoyed that video, and please like and subscribe and join me next time. Thanks very much.